I love my bed. There's this joke in my relationship that rule number 1 is no shitting in the bed. But a few days after we moved into the new flat, with a brand new bed, brand new mattress, my stoma bag leaked. My ileostomy means that I have no control over my excretions and I rely on a bag to keep it clean. But that night, the bag failed me and I broke rule number 1. But despite the stains, I love my bed. When I think about the different beds that I've had, I can be immediately transported back to that time in my life. The bunk beds I shared with my little sister. The single bed of fumbly teenage makeout sessions. My first double bed. That was a big moment. Back to a single bed for first year of uni and more fumbly makeout sessions. My other university beds that were my desk, private cinema, and dining table. Same could be said for some of my first London beds too. These days, my bed is for sleeping, sex, dreaming, crying, and occasionally eating in. I have all my best ideas in bed, just as I'm floating off to sleep or suddenly in the middle of the night. And the ideas won't let me doze off even though my body is begging for some rest. I no longer keep my phone in the bedroom, so I have a notebook just in case I have some of these drowsy ideas. But it does mean that I'm just scribbling in the dark, hoping I'll make sense of it in the morning. I once spent weeks in a hospital bed. After my surgery, and despite the pain, it felt freeing that my only responsibility, the only expectation put on me, was to rest and get better. Don't get me wrong, the conditions that led me to hospital and needing surgery were awful. But just lying in bed all day with nothing to do but sleep, rest, and recover was a bright clearing in the dense clouds of life responsibilities. And I think it's a little messed up that the only time I've given myself permission to rest in bed is when I've been ill. I feel guilty and unproductive if I spend the day in bed relaxing if I'm not suffering with an illness. I've gotten my period in bed. I've had orgasms in bed. I've watched movies and eaten midnight snacks in bed. Hangovers and breakfast in bed. Vulnerable conversations in bed. But my favorite thing is sleeping in my bed. So this video is sponsored by The Body Shop, and they have partnered with End Youth Homelessness this Christmas as part of their Come Together, Act Together campaign. Christmas is potentially going to look very different this year for a lot of us. I know it is in our household, but what we're trying to do is just embrace the uncertainty, embrace the chaos, and find joy in the new traditions that we're going to make. And the challenges of this year means that being together, whatever that might look like, in the safety and comfort and warmth of our homes is more important than ever. But some people don't have a home or don't have a safe home, and that can be something that a lot of us take for granted. For part of this campaign with The Body Shop and End Youth Homelessness, they are organising a Sleepout or In challenge. And this is a virtual fundraising event, and I am going to be taking part in it and giving up my bed, my lovely bed, for the night, and more on what that is, how to get involved and help to raise money and raise awareness later. But first, I wanted to talk about youth homelessness in the UK. End Youth Homelessness is a national movement of local charities who've joined together to tackle the youth homelessness crisis. And if you go on their website, you can see all of the different local charity partners that they have. Over 110,000 young people aged 16 to 25 in the UK are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And in reality, this number is probably higher and is also estimated to increase over the winter months. There are so many different reasons why young people become homeless. Family life could be hard, domestic violence, they or somebody that they live with could struggle with mental health problems or substance abuse, or the people that they live with aren't accepting of their sexuality or their gender. And homelessness not only means that it is incredibly difficult to find a safe place to live, but it can also impact somebody's mental health and their ability to get a job and maintain a job. And COVID has obviously also had a massive impact. In the first 4 months of lockdown, Charity saw a 50% surge in the number of young people phoning helplines who were worried about homelessness, and the number of callers who were sleeping rough also increased by 50%. And I wanted to talk specifically about the impact of this on young women. I discuss a lot of topics around sex and relationships, and that means having conversations about feminism and gender equality because it's all connected. And in times of crisis, like now with a global pandemic, gender inequality also grows. Women are being disproportionately affected by the social and economic impacts of the pandemic. Young women are more at risk of losing their jobs, being on 0 hours contracts, poor mental health, and lacking support networks to get out of desperate situations. End Youth Homelessness have a whole bunch of case studies on their website so you can read the stories of young people, and they've allowed me to share one of them. This is Maya's story, but Maya is an alias. I was left needing to find a place during the pandemic as my previous landlords needed my room back. I did not realise how difficult it would be to find a place as a young person during a global pandemic. There were already several things going against me for some landlords. Being a part-time master's student, part-time employed, working a 0 hours contract, and then there was COVID. I had to persevere for months with calling loads of estate agents and landlords who declined me because of being on furlough in these unprecedented times. The council had nothing to offer me either. I was going between 3 homes from June till August, which was a struggle. Being on furlough, it was difficult to save when I only had enough for bills and food and drink. I definitely would not have been able to move into a place without the help of my support worker at my local End Youth Homelessness charity. As a young woman, trying my best to better my future whilst working, doing my postgraduate degree, and only having little money left over, I can definitely understand how tough it is for young people to get started in life and find their own private rentals to call home. So that money really was life-changing and gave me the stepping stone I needed to finally get my own place. Honestly, there needs to be more charities like this that help young people take that extra step in life, because otherwise it's extremely difficult, and in some people's circumstances, it's seemingly impossible to find a place to live. So like I said, this video is sponsored by The Body Shop, and they have loads of fundraising initiatives for End Youth Homelessness. The Body Shop are donating 2p from every transaction until the 31st of December to End Youth Homelessness, up to a maximum target of £150,000. These donations will fund a dedicated housing team to help young women and mothers between the ages of 16 and 25 to move into their own homes. And it will also go towards bursary and bond schemes which help young people with the costs of securing a rental, such as estate agent fees and deposits. Whilst the Body Shop's focus is on young women, they are not the only ones impacted by homelessness, especially not in the last few months. And so 30% of this fund will go towards helping vulnerable young men as well. And as I said at the beginning, another fundraising initiative is the Sleepout. So the Sleepout Challenge is a virtual fundraising event which is happening on Friday the 20th of November. As we have already established, I love my bed, but can I give it up for the night? Yes, I can. And yes, I will. There's lots of different ways to get involved. You can do a sleep out yourself and raise money, get some friends involved and virtually support each other. Because of COVID, End Youth Homelessness aren't organising their usual mass sleep out events, and that's why it is a virtual event. And so they encourage you to sleep on your living room floor, your kitchen floor, or your balcony if you have one. I do have a balcony, so I accept that challenge. And here's the thing, because I have a stoma bag and I have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, I will be going inside to use my indoor toilet, which already is just like a huge privilege that I have that. I will not be emptying my stoma bag into my downstairs neighbour's garden. I don't think they would like me very much if I did that. If for whatever reason you can't or don't want to sleep out, obviously that is absolutely fine. You can still check out the donation pages and donate if you'd like. If you find my donation page and you donate to that, I am going to be matching donations up to £1,000. So if we raise £1,000 total, then I will donate another £1,000 on top of that. Also, the sleep out isn't intended to replicate the experience of being homeless. It would be impossible to recreate that fear, that loneliness, that uncertainty, that feeling of not being safe and not having anywhere to call home. What the sleep out does, however, is provide a glimpse into homelessness. Even just spending one night away from your bed, potentially not getting a good night's sleep, could leave you feeling uncomfortable and tired, and you might realize how difficult it is to function, to work the next day. But even though you might feel that discomfort and feel that tiredness, you still know that you're safe and that you have somewhere to sleep, which is not a luxury that young homeless people have. Youth Homelessness charities have hosted sleep outs for the last 15 years, and last year alone, 3,000 people slept out and raised £1.2 million. And that is money that will have been used to help support vulnerable young people finding a safe place to call home, access to education, and getting into employment and training. If you want to join in the sleep out, just remember that participant safety is a priority, and so you are not being encouraged to actually sleep out. So living room floor, kitchen floor, balcony if you have one, is the way to go if you want to take part. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks to The Body Shop for sponsoring this video. Links to everything that I mentioned in the description if you want to find out more information about End Youth Homelessness, and also check out the donation page for the sleep out. I am very grateful and very appreciative of my bed. If you want to write a letter, a poem, an ode to your bed in the comments, feel free. I would love to read them. And also let me know in the comments if you are planning on taking part in the sleep out, because then we can virtually encourage and support one another. If you want to get my sleep out updates and see how the night goes, I will be updating that on social media, so you can follow me over there. And I hope that you are well, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.